Rebecca was 41 years old when she finally admitted to herself that she had spent her entire life ashamed of her own body. Sitting on the balcony of her condo in downtown Austin, watching the sunset paint the Texas sky in shades of orange and pink, she held a glass of wine that had grown warm in her trembling hands. She was a university professor of philosophy, divorced for 6 years, no children. Outwardly, she was a cultured, articulate, independent woman. Inwardly, she carried a silent weight that had accompanied her since adolescence, a profound shame about her own desires. Her libido wasn't absent. Far from it. Rebecca felt intense desires, vivid fantasies, a pulsing sexual energy that visited her frequently. But each time that energy arose, it came accompanied by a relentless inner voice. This is wrong. You should be ashamed. Women like you shouldn't think these things. It was a silent prison. She had grown up in a conservative religious family where female sexuality was an absolute taboo. She learned early that to desire was sinful, that thinking about pleasure was impure, that her body was something to be controlled, never celebrated. Even as an adult, even after distancing herself from that environment, the voices remained, whispering guilt every time her body asked for attention. The result was a painful disconnect. Rebecca had desires, but didn't honor them. She felt impulses, but suppressed them. Her body spoke, but she refused to listen. And over time, this dissonance created an anguish that permeated her entire life. It was in a conversation with her therapist, Dr. Martinez, that the name Beto Alves first came up. Rebecca, you've done important work here with me in understanding where these beliefs come from, Dr. Martinez said in a particularly revealing session. But there's body-based work that could complement our therapy. I know a sexologist specializing in women's libido named Beto Alves. He works with mind-body reconnection, with practices that help women free themselves from shame and learn to listen to their bodies without judgment. Rebecca felt her heart race just thinking about it. The idea of working directly with her sexuality, of confronting that shame head-on, was terrifying. But there was also a spark of something else. Hope. He uses breathwork techniques, body-based therapies, energy work, Dr. Martinez continued. And he has a practice he developed called intimate alchemy, which is deep tantric work. But don't worry. Everything is done with great respect, at your pace, with your explicit consent at every stage. Rebecca wrote down the name with shaking hands. It took 3 weeks before she gathered the courage to reach out, but on a hot afternoon in March, when she once again caught herself suffocating a desire and feeling miserable about it, she picked up her phone and scheduled an appointment. Sexologist Beto Alves's practice was located in a restored Victorian house in the Clarksville neighborhood, surrounded by century-old live oaks and a lush garden. Rebecca was greeted by a 35-year-old man with kind eyes and a calm, welcoming presence. "Rebecca, welcome," he said, indicating a comfortable chair in a cool room, naturally ventilated with the distant sound of wind chimes. "Please, make yourself comfortable. Tell me, what brings you here today?" Rebecca felt tears burning before she even began to speak. How could she explain a lifetime of shame without falling apart? "I feel ashamed of my own desires," she began, her voice breaking. "I feel attraction. I have fantasies. My body asks for things. But every time that happens, I feel dirty, wrong, like there's something fundamentally broken in me. I spend my life suppressing what I feel, and it's destroying me from the inside." Beto nodded with a deep understanding that carried not a trace of judgment. "Thank you for sharing that with such honesty," he said, his voice firm but compassionate. "What you're describing is incredibly common, especially for women raised in environments where female sexuality is treated as something shameful. But I want you to know, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your desires are natural, healthy, sacred." Rebecca felt something move inside her hearing those words. Sacred. No one had ever used that word to describe her desires. My work as a sexologist specializing in women's libido is to help women reconnect with their bodies without shame, Beto continued. We use conscious breathing practices, body-based therapies, energy work, and when there's readiness and complete consent, we can explore intimate alchemy, a tantric practice I developed to elevate sexual energy and completely realign libido with the whole being. He paused, observing her carefully. But we'll take this slowly. The first step is to create safety, to build a relationship of trust between you and your own body. Are you willing to take this journey? Rebecca took a deep breath, feeling fear and hope in equal measure. Yes, she said. I'm tired of being ashamed of myself. The first sessions were gentle, almost meditative. Beto began by teaching Rebecca to simply breathe and pay attention to her own body without judgment. Breathe deeply into your belly, he instructed, his voice a calm guide. Notice the sensations in your body. Where is there tension? Where is there warmth? Where is there contraction? Just observe, without judging as good or bad. At first, Rebecca couldn't do this without her critical mind intervening. Every sensation came accompanied by a judgment. This is wrong. You shouldn't be feeling this. How shameful. But Beto patiently guided her back to simple observation. There are no right or wrong sensations, he gently reminded. Your body feels what it feels. Our task isn't to judge, just to listen. Gradually, session after session, Rebecca began to notice patterns. She discovered she carried chronic tension in her jaw, her neck, her pelvis, areas where, Beto explained, we often store shame and sexual repression. In the 5th session, Beto introduced conscious movement. I'm going to play some music, he said. I want you to move however your body wants to without thinking, without judging. There's no right or wrong movement. Just let your body express itself. Rebecca hesitated. The idea of moving freely, especially moving her hips, her pelvis, was loaded with shame. But Beto remained present, without judgment, and slowly she began. At first, her movements were stiff, self-conscious. But as the music continued, something began to loosen. Her hips began to sway more fluidly, her arms lifted, and for the first time in decades, Rebecca moved without censoring herself. When the music ended, she was crying. What are you feeling? Beto asked gently. Freedom, she whispered. For the first time, I felt freedom in my own body. Over the following weeks, the work deepened. Beto introduced body-based therapy, precise therapeutic touch that helped Rebecca recognize areas of her body she had rejected or disconnected from. He always asked for explicit consent before any contact. The body holds emotional memories, he explained while working on tension in her shoulders and back. Shame, fear, trauma. When we release physical tension, we often release emotional patterns too. During one particularly intense session, when Beto was working on tension in her hip area, Rebecca had a powerful insight. I learned that my body was my enemy, she said, the words coming out between sobs. That my desires were a moral failing, that I needed to control, suppress, silence. I've spent my life fighting against myself, and I'm so tired of this war. Beto stopped the body work and held space for her to fully feel that revelation. You are not your enemy, Rebecca, he said with gentle firmness. Your body is not your enemy. Your desires are not failures. They are expressions of your life force. What was done to you, the teachings you received, were not correct. You don't need to carry shame that isn't yours. Those words penetrated deep. For the first time, Rebecca considered the possibility that the problem wasn't in her, but in the beliefs that had been imposed on her. After 4 months of consistent work, Beto mentioned intimate alchemy. I sense you've reached a significant level of reconnection and self-acceptance, he said. You're more present in your body, more able to hear your desires without immediate judgment. If you feel ready, we can explore intimate alchemy, but only if there's a complete yes, without doubt, from your whole being. Rebecca knew what this meant. Beto had explained that intimate alchemy was a deep tantric practice he had developed, work that elevated sexual energy through breath, movement, conscious touch, and meditative presence. It was a sacred act, therapeutic, designed to fully integrate sexuality with the whole being. There was fear, certainly, but there was also a deep certainty that she was ready to meet herself completely, without shame. "I'm ready," she said, her voice firm for the first time in months. The intimate alchemy session took place in a specially prepared room, lit by candles and filtered natural light, with the scent of essential oils and music that vibrated softly. Beto created a preparatory ritual, guiding Rebecca through deep breathing and movements that warmed her energy. "Remember," he said, his voice both soft and firm, "this is sacred space. Here there is no shame, no judgment, only presence, honor, and celebration. You can pause or stop at any moment. Your body is sovereign, your desires are valid, your experience is sacred." Rebecca nodded, feeling safer than she had ever felt in any context related to her sexuality. What unfolded over the next hours was an experience that transcended everything Rebecca knew. Beto guided her through rhythmic breathing techniques, synchronized with specific movements that directed sexual energy not toward external release, but toward internal circulation, elevating it through the body's energy centers. He used precise, conscious touch, always announcing his intentions, always creating a field of absolute presence and respect. There was no rush, no goal beyond honoring and circulating the energy that arose. Rebecca felt waves of energy moving through her body in ways she had never imagined possible. But more important than the physical sensations was something deeper. For the first time in her life, she was feeling desire, pleasure, sexual energy, without a single drop of shame. She cried during the session, not from sadness, but from release. Decades of repression, of self-criticism, of internalized shame letting go, making space for something new. Self-acceptance, celebration, freedom. "Breathe," Beto guided, his presence firm and grounding. "Let the energy flow. You are sacred. Your desires are sacred. You have permission to feel everything without shame." When the session ended, Rebecca was trembling, not from cold or fear, but from pure, liberated vitality. Beto gently covered her with a blanket and sat nearby, giving her time to integrate the experience. "How are you?" he asked after several minutes of respectful silence. Rebecca opened her eyes, and there was something in them that had never been present before. Peace, acceptance, freedom. "I feel whole," she said, her voice full of wonder. "For the first time in my life, I feel completely whole and without shame." And the revelation. In the days following that transformative session, Rebecca underwent a profound internal revolution. The revelation that emerged completely changed her relationship with herself. She realized she had spent 41 years believing there was something fundamentally wrong with her for feeling desire. But the truth that now revealed itself was radically different. There was nothing wrong with her. What was wrong were the toxic beliefs about female sexuality that had been imposed on her. Sitting at her favorite cafe on South Congress, watching people stroll past the colorful murals and vintage shops, Rebecca looked at the world with completely new eyes. She had learned that listening to her body's desires wasn't sinful, it was self-care. That honoring her sexuality wasn't shameful, it was sacred. In her final session with sexologist Beto, she shared her deepest revelation. "I spent my life thinking the problem was in me," she said, tears of joy shining in her eyes. "That my desires were evidence of some moral failure. But now I understand that the problem was never my body, my desires, my sexuality. The problem was the beliefs I was taught, Beliefs based on control, on shame, on fear of feminine power. She paused, breathing deeply. My body isn't my enemy. My desires aren't sinful. They're an integral part of who I am. Sacred, complete, alive. And I have the right to listen to them without shame. Beto smiled, genuine joy in his eyes. That's the deepest possible liberation, he said. When a woman frees herself from internalized shame and learns to listen to her body as a wise guide, not as an enemy to be controlled, she reconnects with her deepest power. You haven't just realigned your libido, Rebecca. You've freed yourself. The action. The action that changed everything was Rebecca's conscious decision to start listening to her body and honoring her desires without shame. She started small. When she felt desire, instead of immediately suppressing it with judgment, she simply acknowledged it. I'm feeling desire. This is natural and valid. At first, even this simple acknowledgement was difficult, but with practice, it became easier. She began paying attention to what her body asked for, not just sexually, but in all aspects. When she was tired, she rested without guilt. When she wanted to dance, she danced. When she wanted to wear clothes that made her feel sensual, she wore them without apologizing. More deeply, she began to honor her fantasies without judgment. Instead of suffocating them with shame, she explored them in her imagination, allowing herself to feel pleasure without self-criticism. She discovered that when she stopped fighting her own desires, they ceased being terrifying and simply became part of her. She started a journal where she wrote freely about her desires, fantasies, sensations, everything she had previously kept locked in shame. The act of putting it on paper, of naming without judgment, was profoundly liberating. When she finally chose to be intimate with someone, a history professor she met at an academic conference, the experience was radically different from anything she had lived before. She was able to communicate her desires without shame, ask for what she wanted, say what she liked. And for the first time, she experienced pleasure without the constant shadow of self-criticism. Epilogue. A year later, Rebecca was a transformed woman. Not in appearance, but in presence, in how she inhabited her own body, in how she moved through the world. She began writing about themes of sexuality and philosophy, exploring academically the same questions she had lived personally, how culture controls and shames female desire, and how women can free themselves from these oppressive narratives. She started a reading and discussion group with other university professors about female sexuality in literature and philosophy, creating a space where women could speak openly about their own desires without judgment. She didn't share details of her own journey, but the message was clear. Our bodies are not our enemies. Our desires are not shameful. Rebecca maintained her practice of conscious breathing, of movement, of listening to her body without judgment. She continued occasional sessions with sexologist Beto to deepen and maintain her work. And whenever she looked in the mirror now, she saw something completely different from what she saw a year ago. She saw a 41-year-old woman who had freed herself from decades of shame, who had learned to listen to her body as a wise ally, who honored her desires as sacred expressions of her life force. Beto Alves continued his work in Austin, guiding other women through journeys of liberation. Each story was unique, but the universal thread was the same. When we stop fighting against our own bodies and learn to listen to them without shame, we reconnect with our deepest power. And Rebecca would never forget the moment she realized she had spent her life at war with the most alive part of herself. But more importantly, she would never forget the moment she declared peace and discovered that on the other side of shame was not just pleasure, but freedom, wholeness, and a deep reconnection with her own essence. And it all began when she found the courage to start listening to her body's desires without shame, and discovered they weren't whispers of sin, but songs of life, asking to be honored, celebrated, and finally, gloriously, set free.